Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Kat. So we have reached basically the end of 2025. I am so surprised at how fast this year has gone. This really has been a very transformative year for me personally. There's been so much growth and so much understanding. I am hoping and praying that 2026 brings you abundance of joy, happiness, peace, and good books. I'm going to go over the 9 books that I read in the months of October, November, and December. I finished Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. This is the first book in the series, and I gave this book a 3.5 star rating. In this book, we follow Carl and his ex-girlfriend's cat named Princess Donut, and their whole world suddenly collapses. Literally. Anybody in an enclosed space, like a building, collapses underneath the weight of the building, and anybody who's in an open area, they get transported into a dungeon where they have to play games and survive different levels. At the same time, these games are being televised, and the players, not only do they have to unalive each other, they also have to win favors from the viewers. This book read like an adult Hunger Games, in which players are playing games and they're trying to survive through any means necessary, and all of this is getting televised. So it really felt reminiscent of the Hunger Games. I gave it a 3.5 star rating because mainly of the writing. It felt very clunky and dry. The pacing wasn't the best. I felt like it could have been edited better because it felt like reading stage directions. I definitely do feel that listening to the audiobook is the way to go with this book. Unfortunately for me, I cannot pay attention when it comes to audiobooks. I have trouble focusing. That's why I read physical books, because it's tangible and I'm able to focus better when I'm touching something. But I am still holding out hope that the rest of the series will get better. Princess Donut was my least favorite character, which I'm in the minority with this opinion because it seems like a lot of people really like Princess Donut, which is funny because I love cats and I love cat characters, so I thought naturally I would like Princess Donut's character, but that was unfortunately not the case. I did find myself skimming a lot of it just to finish the book, which unfortunately is not what I wanted. I don't think the first book is bad. I think the format in which you read or listen matters the most. I will say this, my boyfriend listened to this on audio and he had these same concerns and issues that I did. So I don't know. I guess it's just us. I would still recommend this book. I think if you enjoyed Hunger Games, I think you'll like this because it's a very similar concept. Next, I finished Heartstopper Volume 2. I gave this book a 4.5 star rating. I really liked this book quite a bit. I loved how Nick and Charlie were exploring more of their relationship while Nick was trying to figure out who he is and his own identity, and trying to keep their relationship a secret while he figures himself out. Which is ironic because they are quite affectionate in public. Their friends and stuff already suspect there's something going on. I love how patient Charlie is with Nick. Like, he's willing to just take his time with Nick. This goes to show how important it is to have such a support system, especially when you're at an age where everything is so confusing and you're just trying to figure yourself out. It's also disheartening because there are a lot of people who don't have that sort of support system, and it can be a very lonely journey. It gives you all the feels. Like, this is a really feel-good series. And I also love Alice Oseman's art in here. I love when authors do their own artwork for books because it feels personal. I feel like I have a connection with the author more so beyond just what they're producing in terms of their books and stuff. Definitely enjoyed it. Looking forward to continuing the rest of the series. I think the last volume is coming out in 2026 too, which is a little sad, but I'm sure it'll be a great conclusion. Then I read The Passengers by John Marrs. I give this book a 4.0 star rating. I think John Marrs is now another thriller writer aside from Riley Sager, who I enjoy. In this book, the UK has passed a law where all vehicles are now self-driving vehicles. We follow 4 or 5 characters. Their cars get hijacked. Suddenly they're on this collision course of all 5 cars colliding with each other. They're also being televised for the whole world to see. And each of these characters, they're hiding a secret. The audience basically has to decide, are these people worth saving based off of what they're hiding? This book was really good, and I feel like very important because it really does open up a conversation about like AI and self-driving vehicles, and most importantly, privacy. Do you have a right to privacy? Do you have any sort of privacy? Everything is tracked, monitored, and stored online. It doesn't matter what you try to delete. There is somewhere on the internet where everything you deleted is stored. It's terrifying to think, but the right individual, if they know what they're doing, can access all this information about you. I also really liked John Marr's writing style. It's very easy, it's very immersive. John Marr is the type of author who leaves a lot of suspense for you as a reader, and I really do enjoy that because I don't like predicting. Unfortunately, my brain works that way where it's already trying to put the pieces together and figure out what's going on. I wish my brain would just stop and read, but it's trying to figure out this puzzle. I feel like there's a lot of important things that are explored in this book, so it's beyond just a regular thriller book. And I read another graphic novel called Crumbs by Denny Sterling. This follows Ray and Lori, who are two individuals. They meet each other at a magical bakery shop, and they strike a friendship, which eventually becomes more. Mostly reads like a coming-of-age story, and both these characters are just so lovely because they're so supportive of each other. They really want the best for each other, and even if their lives don't really mingle, meaning that their schedules don't align, they don't always get to see each other, they still are very supportive in what each other wants for their future. There's also a lovely found family aspect to this, where Ray meets Lori's friends and the friends adopt Ray into their circle. So if you're looking for something to read in the fall that's quick, fun, and easy, then I would recommend Crumbs. The artwork in here is so beautiful. It gives you all the fall vibes. It's just a very vibey book with a very sweet story at its center. And then I read Before the Hunt, which is a collection of short prequel stories to the I Hunt Killers trilogy. I gave this whole thing a 1.5-star rating. Like, I'm about to rant, and I really don't want to because in my reading vlog I already sort of ranted, but this was awful. Don't like to criticize any piece of work so harshly, but I feel like this deserves it because I cannot believe that this is published. These short stories are supposed to add more context and background to the trilogy, but it adds absolutely zero. Zilch. It adds nothing. And it's weird because it's so different than the writing in the original trilogy. Some of these short stories came out after the trilogy, so you'd think that there's some improvement in the writing quality, but no, it just went down. It's like the author just threw their ideas together without a care in the world about editing it or actually writing something of quality, and just decided to publish it. A lot of the issues I had with this book were the same that I had in the original trilogy. Again, there was so much emphasis on Connie's race, and Connie is an African American girl. I don't understand why there's so much emphasis on Connie's race. The way that Connie is put under a microscope in not only the trilogy, but these short stories is really disturbing, and it makes me not want to read anything by this author again. And I probably won't. Jasper's best friend, Howie, is a pervert. I can't tell if Howie is just a pervert or a predator. It's so gross how he hunts for girls to like make out with and sleep with. The whole idea of the hormonal teenage boy is exaggerated in this book. I felt so icky reading this one particular short story from the best friend's point of view. I just can't believe that, again, that is written and published. I honestly felt like the author was writing about caricatures than characters, and that's really sad because I feel like these characters have potential to be developed, but the author just doesn't know how to do that. Actually, I was going back and forth if I wanted to keep the trilogy or not because I did like some parts of it, but after reading this, I'm probably going to give it away. From the writing to the characters to there literally being no plot, no sort of common sense, reason, logic in any of these short stories is astonishing. And yeah, done with the series, done with this author. After that monstrosity, I read a 5-star book, and that is A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. My boyfriend actually chose this book out for me to read, and this surprised me. This was such a great book. I honestly feel like I need to reread The Tainted Cup because The Tainted Cup I gave a 4.0 star rating to. And I feel like I just wasn't reading it at the right time. I probably wasn't in the right headspace to read that book. And I say that because this sequel was so much better. Like, it improved so much upon the first book. From the writing, the characters, the mystery, the plot, the subplots, the lore of the Leviathans that we get briefly introduced to in the first book. All of it gets explored and expanded upon, and I ate it up. I could not put this down. It sucked me in. I was back in this world. I was back with these characters immediately. Robert Jackson Bennett has a beautiful way of writing while remaining poignant. He painted such a beautiful and clear picture of a corrupt kingdom and this fantasy world. I could see exactly what he wanted me to see, while also allowing me to fill in the gaps with my imagination. Sometimes some authors can overly describe to the point where readers really can't use their own imagination and picture things. I loved the mystery, I loved the plot, I loved the conspiracy theories. Even though I was able to predict a few things, it was still very cleverly done and really highlighted Anna and Din's ability to analyze and decipher clues and evidence. I love seeing them work together. I feel like their relationship grew and improved a lot more. They're both very smart individuals, and when they come together, it's even better. In the first book, there was a little bit of like a splash of romance between Din and another character, and this book didn't have any of it. I was hoping for the romance to be expanded upon, but honestly, this book did not need it at all. I felt like I was figuring this out and solving this mystery with our characters, which is my favorite part. Like, I love being with the characters as they solve the mystery. Not expect myself to love this book as much as I did. I had kind of lukewarm expectations, but this blew it out of the water. I'm so excited and interested to explore more of this author's books. So I'm definitely going to check out other books that he's written. I think he's written 2 other completed series. I personally feel like the series would make for a great TV show. And hopefully, if any showrunners are watching this video on the off chance that they consider taking the series and turning it into a TV show. And if you're looking for just a fun, like, low, I'm not gonna say low stakes. I won't say low stakes, but I'll say like low magic fantasy series, which reads kind of like Sherlock Holmes, then this is the one for you. And you'll be sucked in immediately. Like Robert Jackson Bennett's brain. Chef's kiss. Next, I read a book that I was anticipating this year, and that is Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. I give this book a 4.0 star rating. This book follows Andrew and Charlie, who are best friends at a boarding school. Andrew likes to write monstrous fairy tales, and Thomas likes to draw them. They were hoping to complete their senior year without any problems, but all of a sudden, Thomas's monster drawings come to life. And these monsters are after both Andrew and Thomas. Right off the bat, I'm gonna say this book is not for everybody. You're either gonna like it or not. And a lot of it has to do with this writing style, this prose. It's very flowery. This sort of flowery prose is definitely an acquired taste. I typically don't like this type of writing. It's just not what I like to read, but it really worked for this book because this book gives a lot of gothic, dark, gothic vibes, and this type of writing matches that, matches the tone, the atmosphere. The prose didn't feel out of place, and it didn't feel like the author was trying too hard to sound pretentious. This is definitely a moody book. There's a scary, mysterious forest surrounding this boarding school, and it's dark academia. The weather is also very gloomy and rainy and cloudy, just dark all around. We also have an unreliable narrator who struggles with mental health and also hallucinates a lot. So you don't really know what's going on, what's real, what's not. And sometimes it felt like the book was teetering on the edge of insanity, which I feel like is representative of Andrew's mental health, who is the main character we follow. One thing I liked was how Andrew's mental health was depicted in this book. Andrew suffers from anxiety, and I feel like those scenes where he was having an anxiety attack felt very real. Like all the scenes where he's having a panic attack, I felt myself getting anxious. The love that Andrew and Thomas have for each other is so obsessive. Like it's obsessive, it's just wild and chaotic, and even at times toxic. It's like not your typical like fluffy love story. It's just madness. The ending of this book is very ambiguous, so if you're someone who does not like open endings left for interpretation, you might not like the ending of this book, but I did because I felt like it just leaves for so many possibilities and for speculation. I feel like this book was an exploration of grief because towards the end you learn about certain truths. I interpret the monsters who come to life as the characters internalizing their guilt. Also, the monsters not only attack Thomas and Andrew, but they also attack the other students in the school. That kind of shows how grief can also affect those around you. I feel like this was an exploration on grief and how it manifests and how it can really affect an individual to the point where they start hallucinating things and creating their own narrative. There is a plot, I promise, but there's just a lot of like speculating. You're trying to figure it out yourself and you don't know what truly is happening. Are the monsters real? Are they not real? Who knows? It's really up to you as a reader to figure that yourself. And I finished the Folk of the Air trilogy with Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. I give this book a 3.0 star rating. This book felt like a downgrade from the second book for so many reasons. I don't know what happened with Jude's character, but it does not feel like it was the same Jude that I grew to love in the first two books. I feel like she was so underutilized, especially because she has so many skills and abilities and they just were not used to their fullest potential. I feel like her whole personality and who she is was watered down to match Cardan. I miss it when she was trying to become the most powerful member in the court, and I do miss her plotting and, just her tricking everybody around her when she used to be laser focused on her mission and will do anything to get to her goal. I did not like Cardan's character one bit in this book. I thought I might like his character a little bit more only because of the way the second book ended. It gave me some hope. I don't see Cardan as a strong character. Like, he has powers, which were only used a handful of times in this book, or in general, really. Unlike Jude, I felt like there was no internal development with Cardan's character, and his relationship with Jude felt so rushed. And he also turns into a basilisk, which was a weird plot line. I get it, he gets cursed and whatnot, but it still felt very left field. I don't know if I want to keep these books because in hindsight, the books were not memorable. The second book was the only good book, but the series as a whole does not feel that memorable. So I might actually just sell these on Pango Books. I do feel like this book had way more potential than what was given. I'm just happy I was able to finish the series before the year ended so I don't have to carry it into the next year. I finished off the year with a 5-star book, also chosen by my boyfriend. He just has really good taste. I don't know. That book is The Diviners by Libba Bray. This is the first book in the series. This book takes place in the 1920s in New York City. So we have the roaring 20s, we have speakeasies and flapper girls and theater and music and fashion, and we're following a 17-year-old girl named Evie. Evie got into some trouble in her hometown, so she shipped off to New York City to live with her Uncle Will. Her Uncle Will is a professor, but also runs a museum for the occult. Evie has powers. When she touches a personal item of someone's, she's able to look into their past. And these powers she's had to hide. Also, there's a string of gruesome supernatural murders that are happening all of a sudden, and Evie and her uncle and the friends she makes along the way have to stop this supernatural entity from murdering more people. This book is exactly how I wanted my reading year to end. It was perfect. The highlight of this book for me was the writing. This is some of the best writing I have ever read in my life, and the fact that this book was published in 2012 is really amazing. It feels like this sort of writing is just not what I see nowadays. I do, in all honesty, feel like the writing quality has diminished with a lot of recent books that are being published. So I really miss writing like this, where the quality is so good and you feel transported into this time period. The author definitely did her research, and you could feel it in the way that they describe the clothes and the food and the music and people who come to New York City with big dreams and big hopes and aspirations. I'm not a fan of historical books, so the fact that I really love this book is saying something. But the thing with historical books is the authors always trying to transport their characters into that time period without losing their character. That's why sometimes readers find historical books boring, because it's hard to get into that time period. Another thing I really liked were the characters, because you really get a sense of who they are. Libba Bray just did a wonderful job in creating well-rounded characters. Not only do they have all these dreams and aspirations and hopes, but they're also very flawed. They're insecure. There are things that they don't really like about themselves. There's things that they doubt about themselves, and it makes them even more believable. And I loved all these characters. I know that if I read this book as a teenager, I would feel very connected because as an adult, I feel connected with these teenage characters. I did like Evie the most. She was my favorite character because she embodied a typical teenager. She loved attention. She loved the New York City life. She loved the fashion, the music, and going out and boys. And she was a very messy character. Like, she was someone who got drunk a lot. She loved to go out. She is somebody who makes mistakes, somebody who's very stubborn and runs headfirst into a lot of situations. I know I get into situations without thinking first. So Evie definitely is somebody I can relate to. She also is very, very clever, very witty, quick on her feet. And I love characters like that who are messy, but they at least have brains. I also loved Uncle Will's character because he's very pragmatic and he has a very scholarly brain and scholarly way of thinking. He's also very open-minded and he opposes hypocrisy and bigotry that he sees all around him. There's a quote that he says, and I'm going to read it because this is one of my favorite quotes and I thought it resonated a lot with me. Quote, "There is no greater power on this earth than story. Will pace the length of the room. People think boundaries and borders build nations. Nonsense. Words do. Beliefs, declarations, constitutions, words. Stories, myths, lies, promises, history." I also loved a lot of the themes that were discussed in this book, especially a lot of the social and political themes, because it really resonates with our current climate. A lot of it was like a mirror to our current times. So I think that's another reason I really liked it, because there was another connection to be made. There were discussions of racism and immigration and politics and religion, and a lot of that hits home. And one thing that I found hilarious is that there is like talk about the KKK in this book, and the KKK are demon worshippers. So I found that very ironic, but also very cleverly done. This book is also very creepy. There were a lot of creepy, scary scenes, and the author did a great job to make it very spine-tingling and scary. So I think this book is great for spooky season. The book starts off with characters playing a Ouija board and a demon communicating via Ouija board. That whole scene was creepy, but you get that right in the beginning, right off the bat. I actually did not have really high expectations because, again, it's taken place in the 1920s, but I'm so glad I read it. I'm so glad my boyfriend picked this out. I'm excited to continue this series. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to more creepy scenes. I'm looking forward to these characters, especially Evie and Uncle Will, who are my top favorites. I will say this is a very character-driven, character-heavy book. There's a lot of focus on these characters and developing them more than progressing the plot line, and that was my only gripe. I wish there was more of a balance between the plot line with the supernatural, demons, and all that stuff, and the characters, but that's totally fine because I love these characters, so it wasn't that much of an issue. Now I'm gonna quickly go over all the books that I did not read that are on my TBR. We have Quicksilver, Secret of Secrets, The Child Thief, The Teacher, Final Girls, Dark Rise, Last Stand of Dead Men, The Great Vampiric Deception, Twilight, and Red Rising. Alrighty guys, so those are the books I read in the past 3 months. Please let me know if you've read any of these books. This will be my last video for 2026. And I just want to give a huge thank you to everybody who has been a part of my YouTube channel this year, whether you just subscribed or liked or communicated with me via comments. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to share my love of books with all of you. I had a great reading year. This is probably one of my better reading years. To all of you guys, I hope you have a wonderful and safe New Year's if you're celebrating or if you're not. And I hope 2026 brings you an abundance of happiness and peace. And I hope you guys have more amazing books to read in 2026. Hopefully you guys discover some new favorites. And I'm just excited for 2026. I think there's so much to look forward to. I will see you guys in the new year. Take care as always. Bye.